So we start a new project, which is how to add and update a data grid view. So first, you double click on our forms to get the public class from one skeleton. So we move on to define our columns manually, unlike what we used to do at first, where we define a virtual table in memory which you store the user's inputs in. When declaring our columns, we use the name of that variable, data.columns.add. But in this case, we are using that approach, so we are defining our columns manually using the data grid view one.columns.add with the column name same as which is the ID, the data grid view one.columns.add first name, and it continues in that manner. So we set the behavior. So this block of code, which is data grid view one dot selection mode, because data grid view one selection mode dot full row select. What this means is that in a row is made up of different cells because every cell corresponds to each column. So what this does is like prevent the user from selecting only a single cell and try to maybe update or add it prevent the user from doing that. And the second data grid view does one the multi-select equals false. This means that the user can select more than one column, more than one rows. So this could prevent the user from doing that. Data grid view one that allow user to add rows equals false. This could prevent the user from manually updating the cells, but rather use the update button, which triggers the input box for the user to do the update there. So now move on to addition. So we double click on the add button, it gives us the private sub button one underscore click and those button one dot click. So in that skeleton or that class for the private sub, so we define our variables, which are the ID, the fname, the lname, and the age, and all our data type string. So the ID is equal to input box enter ID. So when the user clicks on the user will see a message like input box will pop up with a message, enter your ID. When the user enters the ID and press OK, a follow-up message will appear which has the same input box, enter first name, enter last name, enter age in that sequence. So if the value entered by the user for the ID and the age are not numbers or are not numeric, this message will show. So the message does show code triggers. This shows this message is invalid input. Please enter correct values. Error. So if the user doesn't enter a numeric value for those two columns, the user is met with this message. But if the user enters and everything is done right, the the new value the user has entered is added to the table. So we move on to updating method. So if the user, so we double click on the update button, which is button 2 underscore click. Sender as object, E as event, and those button 2 dot click. So if the data grid view, so if data grid view 1 was selected rows or count equals 0, then message does show please select a row to update no selection. What this means is that if no row is selected, the user should see this message. It should prompt the user to select a row. But if the user selects a row, it means that this condition is being satisfied. So we move on to the next block of code. We have the dim row as DataGridView row is equals DataGridView dot selection row. So now the dim new ID, dim app name, dim L name, dim age, and all are of data type string with the dim ID equals inputs edit ID updates row dot cell dot volume dot. So what this means is that when the user wants to update, the user clicks on the update button. The user will see edit ID. So the user can change the ID, the existing ID for the input box. And the user will press update. After pressing update, the user will see edit first name. The user can change the existing one and press on update and follows in that manner, adding the last name, the age, and if the new changes the user has made, if the user entered numbers for both ID, the new ID and the new age, this condition will be satisfied. But if it isn't numbers, but rather strings or other data type, this error message will pop up, which is invalid input. Please enter correct values error. So, given that everything is satisfied, the changes are being added to the existing table, to the values in the existing, to the rows in the existing table. So I said, let's say the name was, let's say John, and now the update has been made. Maybe I said it was John, and now the new update you made it Kofi. So after every condition has been accepted and it has moved through each blocks of code and everything has been checked and all conditions are met, the name John changes to Kofi. So we move on to having a demonstration on how it is on the UI. Let's do that on the ad. So the idea is one first name John, first name J, H, C, it has been added. Let's look at that of the updates. So let's change on. Let's change on description. Let's change this. Well, let's make it 55. See, these are the changes that have been made. So, being able to demonstrate how to add and update a data grid review table. Thank you.